Welcome back to another episode of Sitting Courtside here. Of course, it's your boy Jerry D.
And it's your boy Dante.
We are finally out of the dog days of the summer. It was rough, right? We only had the Olympics to carry us. No Woj bombs, which by the way retired from this game. No
Yep.
shams. We were very much stuck in the mud. But rejoice,
Great song. Mm-hmm.
we got it back. We got NBA back, baby.
Wake me up when September ends. Welcome to October, everyone. The month that the NBA season is going to be back. Yes, very, very exciting stuff, Jerry.
Absolutely. And today it's going to be a short, sweet episode. We're going to do some big storylines, some big claims that we saw out of the media day from Friday and even a little bit on Monday, or if you want to be more exact, September 30th and whatever date it was that Friday. But of course, let's just go ahead and dive into this thing. And you know what? I think you should kick us off for this first segment. Let's let you.
Me?
Yeah.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Oh, Jerry, how sweet of you. Yes. Okay, fine. If you think I should, I will. So, three of the biggest stories coming out of media day going into training camp into this upcoming season that we came up with. The first one that we have, and this is something that we have yet to talk about because this happened in between filming sessions and all that. Karl-Anthony Towns, the newest member of the New York Knicks. The Knicks trading Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, 1/4 of the Villanova Wildcat reunion. Not going to see all four of them on the court together, but those two and a first-round pick that I believe belongs to Detroit.
Yes.
If so, that's not a bad pick. To Minnesota in exchange for Karl-Anthony Towns, and just coming out of that, I think one thing we should look at is where the Knicks rank going into the not just the Eastern Conference, but just NBA upper echelon top teams in general. We were before this trade even happened. We're talking about where they match up with a team like Boston, teams like Philly, Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana, even. Having all four Villanova guys making that trade for Bridges was a huge step for them. Not only, bringing in, doing something that we don't see often, or an NBA team brings in a bunch of friends and stuff, and kind of seeing how that worked. And by doing that, a lot of people are saying this is a team that can compete with Boston. They're, right behind Boston in the Eastern Conference. Now, they get Karl-Anthony Towns. Does that change? Are they still right behind Boston? Are they behind Philadelphia? Did they get better or worse from this trade? So I guess just kind of getting into it, Jerry, where would you rank the Knicks after this acquisition of Karl-Anthony Towns, which I may add, by the way, me and you have talked about and campaigned for in the past on previous episodes. It was just one of those things, and I think I said, in another universe, I can see it happening. I don't think it's happening in this universe. I thought that ship sailed. I thought Cat was secure in Minnesota.
Rightfully so.
But what do I know? So give me your thoughts there on that trade and where you would rank New York amongst those teams out east.
Yeah, I think, we talked about this back and forth a little bit here, even before the trade went down, right? When we were thinking that we were going to get that core Villanova guys that's going to kind of spur the show before this took place. I still have them at 3. I think I still got to put them behind Boston. And despite injuries or not, that being a factor, I still got to have Philadelphia up there. I mean, from a standpoint of having an MVP caliber player in Joel Embiid that can take over a game at any point in time, who also averaged 35 plus in a series against the Knicks last playoff series on one leg, I am inclined to believe that Philly, adding Paul George and other pieces included, looks like the team outside of the Celtics to beat out East. The Knicks have probably the second best roster on paper in the entire league, possibly.
Yeah, on paper. They got a great roster now. Yep.
Behind the Boston Celtics with, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Tatum Brown, Porzingis, I like the way that Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, and Karl Towns sounds. Once the trade is finalized, that's definitely a big-time team that could probably do some big-time things. I have no problem with calling them the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I think it's more versatility that Mitchell Robinson definitely would have provided on the offensive end, and losing Hartenstein was a blow, but when you replace Hartenstein with Karl Towns, it's an upgrade.
That's okay. Yeah, you can get over it for sure.
My only issue, though, is how is this team going to look defensively? Because Karl Towns at times is it looks unmotivated.
Yeah, he
Where
can hold his own sometimes, but then
yeah,
there are other times where it's
I'm,
yeah.
I'm yeah, I'm questioning sometimes his motor, right? Because when Jimmy Butler got to Minnesota, that was the best version that I think we saw of Karl Towns because he brought out the best in everybody. Andrew Wiggins, Karl Towns, everybody that was on that roster, Jimmy Butler brought a different soul into them. Anthony Edwards gets drafted, kind of comes into his own here. He has that same kind of impact on Karl Towns and actually has him playing up to par. They look like really good friends on and off the court. The chemistry's buzzing. Karl, I want you to go be the number one scorer and do this and do that. Are you going to need another like kick in the ass in New York too? 'Cause I can tell you right now, I've been around Jalen Brunson whenever the Knicks came to the Hornets locker rooms, and I've seen games. He's vocal, but he's not exactly that Anthony Edwards level of vocal or
Yeah,
that Jimmy Butler kind of vocal.
right,
It's
right.
very much, hey, this is what I feel like you need to do. Like, come on, like let's go. So, is that going to be enough? Tom Thibodeau obviously had to definitely approve this trade because he's dealt with Cat
I
in
was going to
Minnesota
say
already.
he's coached them two and a
Yeah,
half years about. Yeah.
yeah, and Thibs is definitely a Jimmy Butler guy. Maybe it was more so, man, Cat messed up the thing I had going on, blah, blah, blah. But, he had to sign off on this thing. So I'm sure that he's happy with bringing Cat here for the offensive versatility. But again, this might be a guy that you got to light a fire under. So I'm kind of interested to see. And lastly, how are the fans going to accept this? Like, Carl Towns has
Yeah,
one bad game. You are
he
going to end up
is.
all over Twitter.
He's fucked.
Yes.
Julius Randle was well loved in New York too. He was there for a few years. Fans, did love Randle
Yeah.
in New York. It's an interesting trade because I think this is something that could make the Knicks a lot better, or it's just like a move that I don't know if it really makes them that much better. I think they definitely got their center. I definitely think they got the perfect type of center you could have on that team, spread the floor a little bit, close to 7 feet, just about. I his fit with everyone else, and like you mentioned, how he's going to be with the fans and stuff like that. I wonder how his attitude will be on this team,
Mm-hmm.
playing for a team like New York, dealing with New York media and stuff like that. Like you said, also Tom Thibodeau probably signed off on this. I think him being in New York, last year Minnesota was one of the best defensive teams in the league, and he was a part of that. You can, obviously there's a few factors that go into it. He's bringing that over to New York that, obviously tries to create, has a defensive identity. Tom Thibodeau running, charge here. I think Cat can hold his own, and I think he can even, have one of the better years of his career in New York
Yeah.
if he buys into everything, the system going on defensively, all that. Where they rank in the East, I have again Boston's number one, but I think I have them in Philly kind of neck and neck. Where I do believe that Philly right now, if I had to pick a team, I probably am going to pick Philly just because they have the best player in Embiid. Maxey is a star in the making, and Paul George is Paul George. But on paper, I do think the Knicks have one of the best rosters in the league. So I think it's going to be those two kind of competing
Yeah.
for who's going to be the best team behind Boston. Again, if I had to pick right now, I'd pick Philly, but it's very, very, very close. I think those two teams are going to be neck and neck this year, but it does make things more exciting. I think that the Knicks answered some questions, and now we just see how everything meshes together, and we go from there.
Yeah, I agree. And like one of the questions I have here in our rundown is this going to be Boston's decade-long rival? Like
It could be for sure.
the way that this team is built out is just like Boston's. They have two lead guards. They have two-way players at the wing positions and Mikael Bridges now and Anunoby. Then you get your floor spacing big that could also punish you on the inside and Kristaps Porzingis being Karl Anthony Towns. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested to see how this kind of blooms. Like, yeah, Philly could have something to say about that, Indiana and the other teams that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. So should be an interesting next, 5 years here or so.
Yeah, and age-wise, like the rosters match up and stuff like that. So if there's going to be a team chasing Boston, it could be the Knicks. It could be the Knicks on their tail for the next few years.
I think this is a perfect way to segue. You said age. When you say age, I think old. The oldest player in the league said he's got plenty left in the tank here,
And
which brings us to our
that's
second big
crazy
storyline.
statement.
Yes.
Crazy statement.
it's wild that a
He's
30.
rejuvenated, Jerry. He's rejuvenated at 40 years old.
Hey
Can you
man,
believe
what
it?
can I say, man? LeBron is provocative. He just gets the people going. Like I feel the juices with him, man. But yeah, LeBron said that he has a lot left in the tank to
He
play.
emphasized a lot too.
Yes.
He was
Going
emphasizing. He wasn't just like brushing past it, like saying
no,
that, and then moving on to the night. No, no, no. He was like, I have a lot left in the tank.
a lot.
A
Go-
lot.
Going into his 22nd season. And
22 for 23.
some of the points here that I have, which also before I actually get into that, just some quick trivia for you. The person that has the most points in his 22nd season is Vince Carter with 298. LeBron will break that in the first
LeBron's
couple
going
of
to
weeks.
smash that record. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
indeed. But
I also think he'll break the record for 23rd season, maybe
yes,
24th, and the way he's sounding,
if
probably
we're lucky.
25th. So
Like a lot before the season even started, before I seen the quote, I'm thinking very much so that, damn, we probably got till 2026 at the
I'm saying
latest.
2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's done. But him saying a lot is like, are we waiting on
Hmm.
Bryce? Like
Yeah,
that,
yeah. He does have one more kid. Does have
yes,
another kid.
yeah, that's where my mind goes. But
Yeah,
I think playing in the Olympics, I think Bronny getting drafted, all of that just kind of like you said when we started this thing off, it rejuvenated who
yeah.
LeBron is. It's like,
Lit
wow,
a spark, kind of.
yeah. And then
Hmm.
not I'm here for it. Not even just because I'm a Laker fan, but if you're just a fan of basketball, it's like,
Listen, dude. It's like the same thing with Tom Brady at the NFL. If he can do it, why not? People didn't think he'd make it past a certain age. There was a cliff debate for Tom Brady and stuff like that. But he just kept going. I would say I wouldn't say he kept getting better, but he most certainly was not getting worse. His last year in
honestly,
the league, he led the league or was at least top two in passing yards.
you could
If
say that he got better. Weird.
you could, he won a
Yep.
championship in 2020 when he went to a Tampa Bay team that people thought he was going to be Celtic Shaq on. Okay, but you can like the same thing with LeBron here. It's like if he can keep going, if he can still continue to average 25 points, put up nearly 10 assists a game, if he's the one, taking a step back with scoring, passing it off a little bit to his teammates, guys like Anthony Davis, why not? If you can continue to average 25, 7, and 7 until you're 45 years old, average 25, 7, and 7 until you're 45 years old. You
Yeah.
set the new mark. You set the new, like, unprecedented level. And if your body can hold up, and hey, he's got his son with him, so he's not missing much time at home because his son is on the road with him.
Yeah.
Hey, man, all for it. I love it. If we can get a few more years of LeBron, I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah. Like, looking at some of those media day clips yesterday with the both of them too was
He looks
it's
so happy.
and
He looks so rejuvenated.
it's so weird, right? Just like you were literally holding this dude on the sideline back in 2005, like
Right.
burping him like a
Now,
little
now,
child.
now you're doing interviews with him.
Like that's so freaking
Yeah,
crazy.
it
That's
is.
insane.
It
But
is.
I wholeheartedly agree though. Like if you have more to give to the game, nobody's gonna stop you. If you want to get to year 26, why not? I don't think it'll ever be done again. That's the kind of
Sure. Yeah.
like why not? Like he said a lot. A lot to me it multiplies the window by two. So what I
Yeah.
thought was 2 years just suddenly became his retirement party. Like is going to be in 2028. Like now we're talking, is it going to be in the Olympics in 2028 in LA? Like that's where
I
my
don't know.
mind went.
See, yeah. See, no, I feel like that would be pretty insane if that happened. I don't think that'll happen, but
Who knows?
yeah, man. If he can do it, he can do it. Why not?
Yeah,
And if anything, it only helps his argument for the GOAT debate and stuff, playing longer, extending his window for extending the points record,
yeah,
championships potentially, all NBA, what all stars, all NBAs, whatever it may be. It only can only help it.
absolutely. But the main storyline that we should be talking about for LA, even though what hearing LeBron say that is great. You have
But what
Anthony
are they
Davis.
going to do to help him?
Exactly.
What
Like
are they going to do for him? He
there
can
still
stay
needs to
there,
be
but
more. There needs to
he
be
needs help.
exactly, which is why we have here who's going to be the third star that they acquired. Everybody's still monitoring Trae Young. I hear some people are actually trying to see if the situation in New Orleans doesn't pan out with DeJounte or possibly CJ. Will they be made available? There's still some big names that could be tossed around potentially, but still nothing that we're all the way sold on to where there's actually a solid rumor of any of this stuff being true. So
Yep.
I guess the question to you is just Do you think they should still be in the market for a star? And if they should be, who should it be?
Absolutely, they should still be in the market for a third star. It's one of those things where you have LeBron on your team. Okay, he saying all these things about how great he feels. He wants to do this. You just got him his son. He's in a great place right now, mentally, physically. Do everything that you can to capitalize on this. Like, I'm hearing quotes about, I think this was a day or two, about how, they're looking towards like the JJ Redick hiring and what they're doing with their roster, kind of looking towards what they can do now, but also post LeBron so they don't fall off this cliff like other teams have when they lose star players. Don't worry about that right now. I say, like, players, picks, whatever it may be, if you have LeBron right now playing at the level that he is still, take advantage of it and go after someone. Who that star is, you mentioned Trae Young. His name will always be in the mix here. That's someone I think could work. Zach LaVine is another name that, he's had his ups and downs in Chicago and throughout his career, but as a third guy next to those two, they could really make it work. You mentioned guys in New Orleans. I think it's just a matter of keeping an eye on teams that are looking to sell or situations that aren't working, and then they just strike and capitalize on that. But yes, they absolutely should continue to, and like their main focus should be seeking a third star, up until the trade deadline.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. Being a Laker fan, I've been clamoring for this to happen for the last 3 years because I never wanted our championship team in 2020 to break up. But once you did that, now my mind and my position needed to change and shift on trying to acquire a third star as well. So,
Hey man, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, who knew? Like, that was out of nowhere, him getting traded and stuff like that. It was kind of a shocker. So things
yeah,
could happen.
it's
So
kind of weird though. Like, we'll get more into this for the next point here, but yeah, unless you have something else to add about the Lake
no,
Show.
no, 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 nope.
Okay.
I'm all
Well,
set there.
carrying on, since you did kind of mention the Minnesota Timberwolves again,
Yep.
Anthony Edwards says that he could win MVP, which isn't
I love
outlandish.
it.
Yeah,
I love it. I love the confidence. It could be an outlandish
absolutely.
statement, but we're looking from the bigger picture here. It's not as
Yeah.
crazy as it may
I mean,
seem.
why not, right? The dude just had probably the best summer of his life playing alongside his idol and the rest of these future Hall of Famers, right? And then
Yep. And the
gets
only
home
other
away
guy
from
that could put up 20, that puts up 20 on that team is gone.
yeah,
So, well, you got another guy that could put up 20, but you know what I mean. Last
potentially,
year.
yeah. But getting to the Western Conference Finals last year, it was a really, really good season for Anthony Edwards. So
Yep.
why not him? And I feel him. The stats are there to back it up. You know what he is as a leader. You know what he is as the face of the franchise, which
Has
is
a lot of momentum on his side right now.
exactly, yeah. Which is why the trade was made, apparently in his best interest. And like I said, Carl Towns being moved was apparently a move for the future, is how
Saving
management
saving a
described
lot of money.
it. Yeah, because he was owed 232 million over the next 5. So it's like, all right, you dump some salary on a guy that's, I guess we look at Carl Towns as a B tier player, probably in
Sure.
his maybe A minus if on a good day. I don't know, but at the end of the day, now I really want to know what that future looks like.
Hmm.
Because how many players are you actually going to bring in that's going to bring more to the table than Cat? It's got to be a versatile scorer. It's got to be a versatile defender potentially. You have Rob Dillingham in place for a young player. Jaden McDaniels is there, but
Still young right now. Too young
super
right
young.
now. Hmm.
In some way, like Julius Randle is going to be a better piece than what I think people are giving him credit for. But I don't know if they got better from the deal
Yeah.
itself. Like,
Hmm.
I
They
could
got
kind of see them taking
DiVincenzo,
a step back.
who last year hit more threes at one season than any player in Minnesota history. So they're definitely getting a good bench shooter out of DiVincenzo. I think the way that, from a financial standpoint, it seemed like something that Minnesota had to do, right? They had their hands tied with all
Sure.
this money that was owed. And it's like, for financial flexibility, Naz Reid is going to be a free agent next offseason. They can give him an extension. I think that's someone that they might be looking to hold on to. He's a huge fan favorite, and he's just won six man, so he's a very good player as well. You know, hoping to, by getting rid of Cat, you're hoping you can use that money that you would have spent on him. And also, people were pointing out like the NBA, like TV deals are coming into place. Like, there's gonna be more money, blah blah blah. But the way that they have these tax aprons and all these things set up, it's like, new TV deal or not, they are making it hard for
Yeah.
teams to like keep all these guys. So they had to do this trade. I also don't know. I mean, they were competing for the 1 seed last year, right? Basically tied for 1 in that conversation, that top 3 all
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Do I think, and even like with Cat, even if they didn't make this trade, they were going to be in that conversation anyways, but there's so many teams out west. It was a good teams out west. It was never a guarantee. Now, I don't think they got much worse after this trade. I don't think they got better. I think they got maybe more depth.
It's an even move, right? It doesn't
I
feel like
it
something
really
that's
is
negative.
even,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like 2 for 1. The one player who's the best player in this package, but the other 2 is like solid bench player. I think DiVincenzo could help Minnesota a lot, and then Randall's like
He's an
I shit
all-star.
on him and stuff, but he was an all-star, and I think he'll
Yeah.
play power forward, so he'll play his natural
And,
position.
for what it's worth, Julius Randle's mobility on both sides of the ball is probably going to fit in better in Minnesota because Karl Towns, at the end of the day, being a power forward, he wasn't what we look at as power forwards today, which is a
Mm-hmm.
mobile freak to some degree, right? Guys that are Swiss Army knives. Karl Towns is a great player, but I think him being that 5-man is probably more flexible for today's NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why him and Rudy didn't work. Having Julius Randle now, no, he's not a better shooter than what Karl Towns is. I think Julius Randle shouldn't really take a whole lot of threes a game, honestly.
No,
But
no.
he does move better without the ball, and he is more mobile on that offensive end to where it could, in turns, create more angles for Anthony Edwards and
I
himself
was
to
I
attack
was
the
gonna
ball.
say, like, say what you want, like going back to like the original statement of what started this, Anthony
Yeah,
Edwards saying he can win MVP. This trade, I think, helps his case more than
it
it did
does.
if he had Cat on his team. I think more things opening up for him, a different type of offensive flow now with Julius Randle in the mix. I think this is only
Hmm.
something that benefits Ant, and having more guys like DiVincenzo who's out there with him. Like one of the things last year with Minnesota in the playoffs that they struggled with was there were times when there was only 3 guys, maybe 2, 3 guys on the floor that could actually create their own shot, get a bucket, whatever. You
That's
bring
right.
in DiVincenzo, helps a lot. And you put him next to Ant, spreads the floor out a little bit more. Ant has more room to operate, another guy to pass out to. I don't think it's crazy to think that Anthony Edwards could be in the running for MVP next year.
Yeah.
Here we have written down a few names. No doubt that he can, but having him behind guys like Jokic, Embiid, SGA, Luka is fair because those are bona fide superstars. Anthony Edwards just
Yeah.
had his coming out party, but we look at the situation. We look at if Anthony Edwards capitalizes and take advantage of this situation, and the Timberwolves still are top team in the West, which is still very much so could happen even after this trade. Who says that he is the one raising the trophy at the end of the year? I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not saying he's not my favorite,
You're just
but
making a case. You're
I, I
making a
mean,
case.
I think he can make a strong case
Yeah.
at the end of the year for
I
sure.
understand. I won't go against that because literally those list of guys that you just mentioned, I'd have all of them ahead of him, and I'd
Yeah,
probably have him literally sitting at 5. He'd
sure.
literally
Yeah,
be teetering somewhere on the line along those
yeah.
lines because more names that we could throw in here, possibly Anthony Davis if he has a big year, Jason Tatum if he has a
Jason
big year.
Tatum.
Like
Mm-hmm.
there's plenty of guys that we could kind of
Devin
slot in.
Booker was big last year. He was in the MVP
Yeah,
conversation for a while. There's
if
a
the,
lot of guys.
if the Spurs take a big leap, we could be talking Wemby here. Like
Absolutely,
there's
absolutely. Yeah.
there's a lot of like weird stuff that has to go right in order for the
But
Wolves to get it. But
crazier things have happened.
literally took the words right out of my
Yeah.
mouth. Like I
Yeah.
don't really know if I can call it. I can't call it outlandish, right? Just because we know what Anthony Edwards is and what he means to the league. So obviously the Timberwolves are going to put him in a position to actually succeed. So
Yeah.
I do feel comfortable in that regard, but I just wouldn't bet my money on it.
No, I wouldn't put my money on it. But if you told me halfway through the year, Anthony Edwards is averaging close to 30,
Has to
just
be.
about 30, they're top 3 in the West, I'm going to tell you, well, he's probably a top MVP candidate right now, and he very much so deserves it. So he's got it. He's got the tools. He's still very, very young. I think we also have to keep that in mind. But the way that they set this team up, it is very, very. If it wasn't clear before, it is now. This is Anthony Edwards' team. So let's see how far he can take them.
I don't think anybody was questioning that after at the beginning of the
They
year.
shouldn't have been. They shouldn't have been. But right now, it is a consensus for
Yeah.
sure.
And for anybody else that's wondering too, just some more tidbits and nuggets that I've kind of read over the last couple days after this trade went down. Apparently, Dante DiVincenzo didn't want to be a backup.
I saw that, and I wonder how true that was. Because he was talking about wasn't that thrilled. Not that he wasn't thrilled, but like wasn't like as overly excited about the
Yeah,
whole Villanova four as everyone seemed that they were and stuff like that. I
it's
mean,
kind of weird to me though.
he was a big part of why the Knicks were good last year, and he was healthy for a lot of the season and stuff. So
Oh,
maybe he's thinking like I should be rewarded with more playing time. But
yeah,
you're on a good team. People make
it's
sacrifice. Brunson just gave up $100 million to be on this team.
Michael
So it's
Bridges
like
isn't going to re-sign a big contract until
he's
sometime next year.
right. He'll probably take a bit of a pay cut as well.
This you have
You
to
could
be able to
imagine.
take sacrifices as talented players or as a talented team. So DiVincenzo saying that, I don't know if it's true, but if it
Right.
is true, it's kind of like, wow, like now you ended up. I'm not going to say that the Timberwolves is a worse situation because it's still a damn good basketball team and you have a budding star, but there ain't nothing like playing with your brothers that you went to school with.
And it's
And
also like you went from being the sixth man on the Knicks to being the sixth man on the Timberwolves. Your situation doesn't change here. It
that
doesn't. It doesn't
that's
change.
that's what I'm really questioning more so than any. Like if you're DiVincenzo, this trade was kind of a downgrade to some degree.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think like two, you're playing with your buddies and stuff. I feel like that's something that could be fun, but also compete for the sixth man of the year. Yeah, like, listen, the
Do
goal
it.
you want to start, you want to be the best player you can be. You want to do the best you can. You want to do the most to help your team, and that means having more minutes and stuff like that, more playing time. I get that, but like he knows his role on that team. He obviously had a very good season last year,
Yeah.
coming off of that success that I don't want to say Cinderella run, but they had a really strong run last year. And now they're coming back with all this momentum. He could have been huge for them off their bench. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He was part of the trade package, regardless of how he felt. But
Yeah.
he can still shoot for the Stars in Minnesota. He can still go for the sixth man award if he wants, because he's going to be
The
coming
way
off the bench there too.
the way that I see it, like, Jamal Crawford and I think even Lou Will said this at one point, like, just because you come off the bench as a six man doesn't mean that you don't get to finish the game. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
you could be hot. You could have had 30 going into the fourth quarter. Guess what? You stay hot down the stretch, you're gonna play
Tibbs is
those final
playing
2 minutes
you.
of the game.
Hmm.
So, I'm not gonna harp on that too much. Before we kind of close things out here, I want you to grade this trade for both teams real quick.
Yes. Okay. I mean, for the Knicks, again, like I feel like this was a fairly even trade. I feel like both teams didn't like if either team got worse or better, it's not by much, right? I think the Knicks simplified things. Losing DiVincenzo is tough, right? I have said in the past the Cat would be the perfect center for the Knicks, so I can't shy away from that. I have to stick with that. So I think for the Knicks, I'm going to give them an A- on this one. They gave up a good pick. They gave up it's like a 2-for-1, but I think again on paper they have one of the best rosters in the league now. And I think Cat will do a lot for them. For the Timberwolves, I think I'm going to put them at a B, just because if there is a team in this trade that I think if there's a better team and a worse team that ended with this, I think the Timberwolves got the worst end of it. Yes, like you got a good first round pick, you got two guys for one, but you were a top team in the West last year. You made it to the Western Conference Finals, and then you split them up. So I don't know. Financially, you did what you had to do, but we don't know how this is going to affect the Timberwolves. We just gave a whole case of how Anthony Edwards could win the MVP and like how he could benefit from this. But maybe it's a trade that the Timberwolves take a big step back next year. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We're not too sure about Randall's fit there. We're optimistic, but not sure. So I'd give them a B. And like I mentioned before, Knicks, I'll give them an A-.
I'll give both teams a solid B, to be honest. I think
Sure.
from the standpoint of what you said about the Knicks, I think everything is spot on. I have a lot of questions just about what the rotation is going to look like.
I mean, you can convince me to bring them down to a B plus in that case because they
Yeah.
did lose some depth, and their rotation is going to be a big question.
Like we know, Dante DiVincenzo was literally the flamethrower off the bench that they needed in terms of scoring, especially Josh Hart. Great
Yeah.
Swiss Army knife kind of player, right? Can guard the opposing teams, good perimeter offensive guys, and one of the best rebounding guards in the league, not a bad playmaker. There's a lot to Josh Hart's game that I think we didn't really see coming last year, which was
Sure.
great. It was awesome, but DiVincenzo, you need to put the ball in the hole. That was the guy that Thibs turned to. So
Yep,
losing him
taking
is odd.
shots. Yep.
And again, like I think Julius Randle and Karl Towns aren't too far off in terms of talents. Yeah, you probably give Karl Towns a slight nod for what he's done, but Julius Randle's no scrub. So that's why the Knicks are kind of question mark. I'm really giving the Timberwolves a B just because I feel like everything is just being done strategically right now. There's probably some big future move that we don't see coming yet that they could afford to make. Maybe it's a move for another star player that they just need to clear off that cap of Carl to get a bigger name. What
Sure.
bigger name? I have no clue. I do not know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely.
we're not GMs. We're not front office workers, so they know a lot more than we do, I would hope. So I'm
Yeah.
going to kind of put some faith in them. And yeah, like I said, they still got Julius Randle, who's not a major downgrade if you consider him one at all from Karl Towns. Mobility is a big thing, and having a motor is a big one too. I think Julius has both of those things going on
Yeah.
for him. So
Yeah, Julius has a good mentality too. Putting guys like him and Ant next to each other, I
it
think they could
should
work
be good.
well, make each other better.
Good, smart basketball. Hey, David Finch, please, for the love of God, get Julius Randle to take about 3 threes a game. I
Yeah,
don't want to see
you
8
need,
3-pointers
you need
coming
to
from that guy.
you need to put a cap on that
Yes,
shit because once
please.
you start attacking threes, we are
He
gonna
he
have some
can literally
conversation.
shoot his team out of games. I don't want to see that. Just become a mid-range
I
maestro, put that big body down low, and go to work.
I just imagine like first game of the year, like Randall shoots like 1 for 7 from three in post game, and it's like, yeah, he's got to cut that shit out or something like that. Just like
I hope
completely
so.
calls him out.
I
That
hope so.
I see it. I see it happening for sure. For sure. But
Well,
yeah, there we go. Biggest storylines. What we have right now coming out of the media day, going into training camp and all that stuff. Make sure to put in the comments, what you think of these storylines. How many years do you think LeBron has left in the tank? Where do you think the Knicks rank with Karl Anthony Towns? If Anthony Edwards could win MVP this year, especially now that Cat is gone, does this open it up? Does this make it more likely that Anthony Edwards could win the MVP this year? Let us know in the comments. And Jerry, before we sign off, anything else you would like to add?
yeah, man. Rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yesterday. I mean, him, Pete Rose yesterday
It
too.
was a weird day.
A
It
lot,
was,
a lot of legends. A few legends that passed away in their, legend in their respectable sports.
yeah.
Rest in peace to Kembe Mutombo, obviously a Hall of Famer. But what we're reading and what we're seeing, 10 times better of a human being, person off the court
Yeah.
than he was on the
Hey,
court.
grew out the game globally that David Stern kind of wanted to be. He was the face of the NBA Africa. Had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of good prospects come through, like Luol Deng, like a Joel Embiid or Pascal Siakam. So they're all proponents of what Dikembe was able to create, being the face of that. So
He
salute to him and his
impacted the
family,
game
man.
heavily,
Prayers
man.
out.
Yeah, he did a whole lot for the game. So rest in peace to Kevin Mutombo, rest in peace Pete Rose, put him in the Hall of Fame and the bullshit. But till
I was
until
big
next
fan
time,
of him.
guys. Until next time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe if you are here on YouTube. Put in the comments again your thoughts on these stories, what you think that these teams should do, where you'd rank them, how many years LeBron has to play. Like I said before, Check out our shorts tab here for gamified content. If you are listening to us on audio platforms, please make sure to give us a 5-star rating review, all that good stuff. It helps us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You know the deal. Until the next episode, peace.